Hello, hello, beautiful people. Welcome back to the Jayesha podcast, or maybe it's your first time, and if it is, welcome. Welcome to this space where the inner child roams free. But that's really just a fancy way of saying that this is a place where we can remember the magic that is life, that is everything. I'm so happy to be with here. I'm so happy to be with you guys here today. It's such a privilege to be able to speak with you. So without further ado, let's get right into what I want to talk about today. And that is the nature of pain. I chose this topic for my second podcast episode, well, in part because it was just feeling kind of right. And in a logical way, I feel like our relationship with pain is one of the most important relationships that we have in life. Because after all, it's really the thing that kind of leaves us in the dark. It leaves us questioning, why are we here? What's the purpose of all this? And I think it's the hardest part of our human existence to come to terms with. The times in our lives that we feel the most pain. I mean, it freaking sucks. And what are we supposed to do with it? So that's what we're going to talk about. And I'd like to start by reading a passage with you from an essay I wrote in high school to get into college. I wrote this when I was 17, so let's go into the mind of young Jack here. It is a late June evening. The weather is warm, with an intermittent breeze flowing, cooling me off. I still taste remnants of the cheeseburger I had for dinner. It smells like the dense woodlands surrounding us. I hear the hooves of my horse ka-clunk, ka-clunk, and birds chirping. The sky is a pink orange. The trail we walk down is a worn-down gravel road. Despite being in the forest, the setting sun shines down on the trail through the towering ponderosas. I look down at my horse. She is a beautiful, deep, dark brown. I turn to my left, and I see my stepbrother Alec. His horse is a light brown, with a dark brown mane. He sits peacefully in his saddle. I turn to my right, and I see my other stepbrother, Connor. His horse is a light gray, freckled with specks of white. He carries a quiet confidence in his composure. He turns and smiles at me. He then kicks his horse. His horse picks up speed, and suddenly, Alec's horse and mine take off after his. We gain speed. I squeeze the horse with my little legs to hold on, leaning forward, reins in hands. I hear the horse huffing and puffing, and I hear the clunking of the horse's hooves, increasing rapidly in frequency. I feel the wind rush through my hair. The beautiful scenery around me becomes a blur. I am euphoric. We finally catch up to Connor, who glances at me, and we all laugh. I can't conceal my smile as the three of us gallop through the immense and gorgeous Montana countryside. Wow. I had that experience when I was 13. Alec was 12. Connor was 10, I believe, 9 or 10. And I wrote that excerpt in my college essay because I talked about how this was a time that existence made sense. It felt like everything in life ultimately was bringing me back to moments like this. It's where I felt the most at peace. And most importantly, it's where I felt the most myself. I didn't feel like I was performing. I felt so loved and accepted for exactly who I was with Alec and Connor. I felt so connected to the nature around me, the trees, my horse. All of my senses felt so activated. I didn't feel like I was a byproduct of the world. I felt like I was interdependent with it, interbeing with it. I'm sure we've all had moments like this in our lives where life just makes sense. It could be something simple like playing soccer, playing spike ball, maybe listening to music, hanging out with your friends, maybe drinking with your friends. Whatever those moments are that you just feel the most like yourself. We'll do a meditation at the end of it where we can imagine it more in detail together. And for now, I want to talk about how much it sucks when life doesn't feel like that. Regardless of how you're feeling today, we can all relate to a feeling of disconnect between the life that we want to live and the life that we're currently living. And I want to take that a step deeper and say the person who we are and the person that feels the most like ourselves in these moments. And that disconnection between when we don't feel like ourselves and when we do feel like ourselves is where I believe pain begins to arise. Now, all pain that is not life-threatening is only threatening our idea of ourselves. I'm going to say that again. All pain that is not life-threatening is only threatening our idea of ourselves. When we can slow down and listen to this pain, we can see how we are living in a way that is inconsistent with who we really are, with a version of ourselves that feels the most like ourselves. What I'm implying here is that this pain that we feel when we are not feeling like our true selves, maybe we feel like our life isn't meaningful, maybe we feel tired, maybe we don't like the person that looks at us in the mirror. Whatever these assumptions that we hold about ourselves that just freaking stink, whatever manifestation this pain takes in the narratives that we tell ourselves, I truly believe that this pain is only arising to remind us that we have strayed from the person that we most deeply and truly are. The person that we know we are in these moments where we feel the most like ourselves. Pain is not something that we need to run away from. It's not something that we need to resist. It's not like, hey, life is just inherently bad, or sometimes it's just inherently good, and we might as well run away from the bad times and try to indulge in the good times as much as we can. I don't believe it's like that at all. I believe that the good times are a reminder of who we really are, and the bad times are a reminder of who we're not. They are an alarm sounding to us, hey, no, this isn't you. This isn't you. Get back on track, get back on track. For your own sake, and for all of those around you. Because the person who will always add the most value to the world, the person who will always add the most value to those around them, is one who is enjoying life. When we're operating from a state of bliss, when we are feeling like ourselves, when we are happy, we can share that bliss and happiness with all of those around us. Unfortunately, we do sometimes live in a world that seems to reward us for not being ourselves, whether that be in superficial attention, whether that be in money. But I want us to put all of that aside just for a sec and kind of really lean into the premise that we are of the most value to ourselves and all of those around us when we are happy. And so that means that our pain, it's not something that we need to condemn. If our bliss is a compass north, our pain is a compass south. Both of them can be used to help us point in the right direction, depending on our relationship to them. When pain arises, I actually now am practicing being grateful for this pain, thanking this pain for arising and bringing into my awareness a way in which I'm living inconsistently with who I really am. And I believe who I really am is that person who doesn't have walls up, who is loving others without any expectations in return, who is free, who is curious, who is goofy, who has fun and doesn't take life so seriously, and understands that life can be its own reward. It can be its own purpose if we allow ourselves to be happy and lean into joy and lean into gratitude and lean into good times with friends and examine the ways in which maybe I have set up structures and habits in my life that aren't consistent with who I am. And remembering who we are, getting that transition from moving away from who we are back into who we really are is a blissful process in itself. And if it's hard for us to conceptualize, if it's hard for you to conceptualize that pain can actually be this beautiful compass when we allow ourselves to feel it, you can think about a time in your past where you were feeling so much pain, where you were in a really, really dark place. Maybe you were in a really bad relationship. Maybe it wasn't a romantic relationship, but a relationship with a friend or a family member. Maybe it was your relationship with yourself, or maybe it wasn't a relationship at all. Maybe you were in a bad job, or maybe you were just doing something that you didn't enjoy. And you felt so much pain doing that. And because of the pain, you put your foot down and you made a decision to change. You changed the way in which you were living. You learned something about yourself. Excuse me. A little burp. You learned something about yourself that is now an integral part of who you are. And even though the bad times sucked looking back at them, or even though the bad times sucked in the moment, you can look back at it and be so grateful for it because of what it taught you about yourself. In the following meditation that we're about to do, it'll just be a quick one, I'm going to try to have us have that perspective about our pain right now. Even though we can't always see what our pain is pointing us to, we can have faith that it is a symptom of us, again, living in a way that is inconsistent with who we really are. So, now for this quick meditation. You can just take a few deep breaths with me. Allow yourself to just melt into the sound of my voice, into this moment. Wherever you are, maybe you're driving, maybe you're walking, maybe you're sitting down just listening, maybe doing some monotonous or simple task. Everything right now is okay. You are okay. You are here. Notice any parts of your body where you're feeling tense. Take your tongue off the roof of your mouth. Relax your shoulders. Relax your stomach. Maybe you're clenching your butt. Stop clenching your butt. Or if you're walking, just allow yourself to really sink into your feet, kissing the earth with every touch. And I want you to thank yourself just for showing up for yourself right here, right now. I want you to thank yourself that you're here, that you're alive, and that you came here to experience. Now, I want you to think about a time where you feel the most like yourself. And I want you to pick out a specific memory that you have of doing this. Who are you with? What does it smell like? What does it look like? As many details as you can notice. Unless you're driving, then please be careful. But you can still imagine. What does it feel like? What are your hands touching? What are your feet touching? Any part of your body. What kind of contact are you experiencing? Is there any food there? Or drinks? If so, what do they taste like? This is a place where there is no fear. There is no worry. Life makes sense here, and it will always be that way. How do you feel being in this moment? Maybe you feel free. Maybe you feel loved. Maybe you feel a sense of peace. Maybe awe. In this moment, life makes sense. This is who you really are. This is who you really are. I want you to say it to yourself. This is who I really am. Now I want you to feel grateful for this scene. And I want you to think about a time in your life where you felt low. A time in your life where things weren't making sense. So say goodbye to that scene. Say that you're so grateful for it. And now move to this other scene where you're having a difficult time. Maybe you're dealing with unknown. Maybe you don't like the person who looks back at you in the mirror. Maybe you feel overwhelmed or confused. And I want you to paint a picture of this scene, just like we did the last one. What does it feel like? What does it smell like? If there's any taste, what does it taste like? What does it look like and feel like? Who are you with, if anyone? And now I want you to look within and notice how you feel. Maybe you feel afraid. Maybe you feel lost or overwhelmed. Maybe you feel worried. Maybe you feel like you can't do it, that you're just not enough. Maybe you feel like you're not going to be okay. Now I want you to take that scene and I want you to feel how much that scene sucks. You can even say it to yourself. That sucked. But I want you to say that you're grateful that it sucked. I'm grateful that this sucked. Now I want you to leave that scene and I want you to imagine both scenes right next to each other. You have the good scene on your left, the one that felt amazing, and the one that felt horrible on your right. And again, I want you to say, I am grateful that this scene on the left felt amazing and was amazing. And I'm grateful that this scene on the right sucked. And now we can see how the scene on the left, in the feeling of amazement, the bliss, the freedom, the love that we felt, it's a reminder of how life was always intended to be lived, and a reminder of who we really are. And the scene on the right is in some way a reminder of how life was not intended to be lived, and who we really are not. As in, we don't like to live in fear. We don't like to live in a way that's overwhelmed, where we're closed off, whatever that is. And we can see how the ways in which we were living in the second scene, in the scene on the right, is inconsistent with who we really are on the left. How the life that we were living with the scene on the right is inconsistent with the life that we want to create for ourselves, like the one on the left. Within the bliss of the scene on the left is information about who we are. And with the scene on the right is information as well, information about who we are not. When we have the courage to allow ourselves to feel love and bliss, and equally when we have the courage to allow ourselves to feel pain, in both, we are learning about who we really are. So I want you to thank yourself for all the beautiful times, for all the times that you've allowed yourself to be yourself, and how beautiful it felt, how good it felt. And I want you to thank yourself for the bad times, for how bad that felt, and how that horribleness is pointing you back to the remembrance of who you are. That love, that inner child, that freedom, that peace. Thank you guys so much for listening to me today. I'm going to let you stay in this space if you'd like. I'll see you next week.